The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the city. The sky was painted in hues of orange and pink, a fleeting beauty that quickly gave way to the encroaching darkness. The last light of day was fading fast, leaving the world in a twilight glow. The neighborhood, usually bustling with activity, now seemed eerily quiet, as if holding its breath. John, a young man working his way through college as a delivery driver, steered his beat-up sedan through the city streets. The car rattled with every bump, a constant reminder of its age and wear. His headlights illuminated the darkening houses, their windows like watchful eyes. John shivered, feeling a chill that seemed to seep into his very bones. The air inside his car seemed unusually cold, almost as if the warmth of the day had been sucked away by the encroaching night. He turned up the heat, but it did little to chase away the chill that had settled deep in his bones. He rubbed his hands together, trying to generate some warmth. It was going to be one of those nights, he thought. A night where the shadows seemed to move on their own, and every creak of his car sounded like a whisper in the dark. A night where shadows seemed to move, and every creak of his car sounded like a whisper. The streets were empty, but he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. As he pulled up to his next delivery address, a sense of unease washed over him. The house loomed in the darkness, its silhouette stark against the night sky. The house was shrouded in darkness, save for a faint light flickering in an upstairs window. It cast an eerie glow, making the shadows dance on the walls. It looked like any other house on this quiet, tree-lined street, but something about it felt off. The stillness was unsettling, as if the house itself was holding a secret. He double-checked the address on his phone, his finger hovering over the screen. The numbers matched, but his gut told him something was wrong. His heart pounded in his chest, each beat echoing in his ears. He took a deep breath, trying to calm his racing thoughts. He hesitated for a moment, a strange reluctance holding him back. It was as if an invisible hand was pressing against his chest, urging him to stay in the car. He told himself it was just his imagination, just the fatigue from a long shift. He had been working non-stop and his mind was playing tricks on him, but deep down, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The unease gnawed at him, a persistent whisper that refused to be silenced. Earlier that day, on the opposite side of town, Sarah found herself stranded on the side of a deserted highway. Her car had sputtered and died without warning, leaving her feeling vulnerable and alone. The sun beat down on her as she rummaged through her purse for her phone, her anxiety growing with each passing moment. Just when she was about to give up hope, a rusty pickup truck pulled up behind her. A man, his face weathered by time and hard work, emerged from the driver's seat. He offered a kind smile and a helping hand. Relieved, Sarah accepted his offer of assistance. He tinkered with her engine for a while, his calloused hands moving with practiced ease. After what felt like an eternity, the engine roared back to life. Sarah thanked him profusely, her heart brimming with gratitude. He dismissed her thanks with a wave of his hand, his eyes twinkling with a strange intensity that made her slightly uneasy. As Sarah continued her journey, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. The night was eerily quiet, with only the sound of her footsteps echoing through the empty streets. She quickened her pace, hoping to reach the safety of her car. She glanced nervously at her rearview mirror, her pulse quickening as she caught a fleeting glimpse of a pickup truck, resembling the one that had stopped to help her. The truck's headlights seemed to pierce through the darkness, casting an ominous glow. It was probably just a coincidence, she told herself, her mind racing. But the nagging doubt wouldn't leave her. She tried to focus on the road ahead, but her thoughts kept drifting back to the stranger who had offered assistance. But the feeling of unease lingered, casting a shadow over her relief. She couldn't help but wonder if she had made a mistake by accepting help from a stranger. The darkness outside seemed to close in on her, amplifying her fears. Back at home, Sarah tried to put the incident out of her mind. She turned on the TV, hoping to distract herself with some mindless entertainment. But every creak of the house, every rustle of the wind outside made her jump. But as the day wore on, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. She found herself constantly looking over her shoulder, her nerves frayed. The sense of being watched was overwhelming, making it hard to concentrate on anything else. The phone rang, but when she answered, there was only silence on the other end. She hung up, her heart pounding. Who could it be? She tried to dismiss it as a prank call, but the timing was too unsettling. A series of unexplained noises from her backyard kept her on edge. She peered through the window, but the darkness revealed nothing. The noises seemed to be getting closer, each one more alarming than the last. Later that night, as she lay in bed, unable to sleep, she heard it again, the distinct crunching sound of footsteps on gravel outside her bedroom window. Her breath caught in her throat as she strained to listen. Her heart pounded in her chest as she slowly got out of bed and crept towards the window. Each step felt like an eternity, her fear mounting with every passing second. Peering through the blinds, she could have sworn she saw a shadowy figure lurking in the darkness, its eyes glinting in the moonlight. The figure seemed to move, sending a chill down her spine. She backed away from the window, her mind racing with possibilities. John's phone buzzed, snapping him back to the present. He glanced down at the screen. It was a message from dispatch: delivery to 13 Elm Street. Urgent. Package contains medication. With a sigh, John put his car in drive and headed towards the address. He couldn't shake the feeling of unease, but he had a job to do. As he approached Elm Street, the streetlights flickered and died, plunging the street into darkness. John's heart sank. He hated delivering in the dark. It always made him feel so vulnerable. He slowed the car, peering into the darkness, his headlights cutting through the gloom. He found the house at the end of the street, shrouded in shadows. It looked eerily familiar, but he couldn't place it. He double-checked the address, his brow furrowed in confusion. It was the same address he had dreamt about the night before. Section 5. A growing sense of dread. John pulled up to the curb and got out of his car, his steps hesitant. The street was eerily quiet, the kind of silence that makes you feel like you're being watched. He glanced around, his eyes scanning the dimly lit surroundings, searching for any sign of movement. The only sound was the gentle rustling of leaves in the night breeze. It was a peaceful sound, but tonight it felt ominous, as if the trees themselves were whispering secrets. He walked up the driveway, his hand hovering over the pepper spray on his keychain. Each step felt heavier than the last, his heart pounding in his chest. The shadows seemed to stretch and twist, playing tricks on his mind. He rang the doorbell, the sound echoing in the stillness. It was a sharp, jarring noise that seemed to cut through the night, amplifying the silence that followed. He waited, but there was no answer. The seconds dragged on, each one feeling like an eternity. He could feel the tension building, a knot tightening in his stomach. He rang the bell again, this time holding it down for a little longer. The prolonged ring seemed to echo even louder, bouncing off the walls of the silent houses around him. Still, no one came to the door. He looked around, the empty porch and dark windows offering no clues. The feeling of unease grew stronger. He glanced at the package on the porch, a plain brown box sealed with packing tape. It seemed out of place, almost too ordinary in this unsettling setting. There was no return address, only a handwritten label with the address and the word urgent scrawled across it in bold letters. John hesitated. The word urgent seemed to scream at him, demanding his attention. He had a bad feeling about this. His instincts were telling him to leave, but his curiosity and sense of responsibility held him back. He considered leaving the package on the porch and getting out of there, but the word urgent gave him pause. What if it was something important, something that couldn't wait? What if it was medicine for a sick child? The thought gnawed at him, making it impossible to walk away. He couldn't just leave it here. With a determined look, he bent down and picked up the package, deciding to take it with him and figure out what to do next. The sense of dread still lingered, but he knew he had to act. Section 6. A knock at the door. Back at her house, Sarah jumped at the sound of a knock at her door. She froze, her heart racing. Who could be visiting at this late hour? She cautiously approached the door, her hand trembling as she reached for the handle. Taking a deep breath, she opened the door a crack, her body tense with anticipation. Standing on her porch was a tall, shadowy figure. The man from the highway. She recognized him instantly, a chill running down her spine. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. The man smiled, his eyes glinting in the darkness. "Just returning the favor," he replied, his voice a low growl. Section 7. Face to face. John decided to try the door handle. To his surprise, it was unlocked. He hesitated for a moment, then pushed the door open and stepped inside. The air inside was heavy with the scent of mildew and decay, sending a shiver down his spine. The house was dark and silent, the only light coming from the moon shining through the dusty windows. "Hello?" John called out, his voice echoing in the emptiness. "Delivery?" There was no answer. John took a tentative step forward, his eyes struggling to adjust to the gloom. He could hear his own breathing, loud and shallow in the stillness. As his eyes adjusted to the darkness, he noticed something strange. There were footprints on the floor, leading from the front door to the back of the house. Section 8. Flight or Fight. Before Sarah could react, the man lunged, his hand reaching out to grab her. Sarah slammed the door shut and fumbled for the deadbolt, her heart pounding in her chest. She heard the man's frustrated growl from the other side of the door, followed by the sickening thud of his body slamming against the wood. Panic surged through her veins. She raced to the phone and dialed 911, her fingers trembling so badly that she could barely press the buttons. As she frantically explained her situation to the operator, she heard the sound of breaking glass from the back of the house. Adrenaline coursing through her body, Sarah knew she couldn't stay in the house and wait for the police to arrive. She had to find another way out. She grabbed her car keys from the hook by the door and sprinted towards the back door, hoping to make it to her car before the intruder could reach her. Section 9. The Aftermath. The police arrived at both houses to find nothing but eerie silence. Sarah and John were never seen again. The package sat on the porch of the house on Elm Street, untouched. The mystery of their disappearance remained unsolved, a chilling reminder of the darkness that lurks beneath the surface of everyday life. Some whispered that Sarah and John had stumbled upon a sinister secret, something hidden from the world. Others claimed that they were victims of a random act of violence, their lives cut short by a cruel twist of fate. Whatever the truth may be, their story served as a chilling reminder that even in the safety of our own homes, we are not always safe from the darkness that surrounds us.